This is the Business Experience Show, where we connect those who want to know more about digital marketing, social media, and business strategy with entrepreneurs who are succeeding in today's marketplace. Follow our blog, join our online network, or connect with us at thebusinessexperienceshow.com. And now, your host, Lisa Caprelli.
Welcome to the Business Experience Show. With me is business show producer Brian Gapps. Also joining us is Doc Kramer, a retired trial attorney. He currently consults with businesses to achieve their goals for success. Our guest is an alumnus of the Harvard Kennedy School. He is the author of the best-selling book, The Renegade Server. He is a consultant and speaker with a focus on building sales, invigorating service, and team building, especially within the food service industry. His seminars draw tens of thousands of attendees each year. Welcome, Tim Kirkland.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hi, Tim. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Brian, I came out of school, decided to create a real job for myself in the hospitality business, and I devoted my efforts to figuring out how to make the most amount. And so that's what I did, and I put all of my energy into that, and I was soon making great money being a server and a bartender. I bought my first nightclub when I was 25 years old with tip money, and grew that to a small group of bars and restaurants in Colorado, where I'm from. I sold that company in 2000 to lead training for a large national casual dining chain. And then in 2007, I wrote The Renegade Server and founded the Renegade Hospitality Group.
Yeah, The Renegade Server should be a required reading for anyone that is interested in making a living as a waiter or a bartender. What I found most interesting was your perspective that it's really the greatest business to have, in that if you view being a waiter as having your own business, where somebody cooks the food, somebody's paying the overhead, somebody's got, is making sure the inventory's there, they worry about the shrinkage, and all you have to do is get people to order, and it's the greatest business in the world. So it from your perspective, it makes absolute sense why you would, while you could have done other things, that was the right business for you to go into.
I think you bring up the core point of the book, which is, this is the only small business in the world that someone else builds the building, buys the advertising, creates the product, pays the insurance, pays the taxes, I mean, on and on and on. That this is the only startup in the world that requires no cash outlay, but that I can just show up and execute and take a 20% cash commission on everything I sell with no investment.
You just have to show up.
Yeah,
and for you, it's
but
being,
you have to really
right.
show up.
I know you speak around the country, and what is some of the topic points you speak about?
We talk about not just how to make more money as a server, which although there's a ton of that. That's what the book is about. It's how do we take the time that I'm going to spend on the floor in a restaurant and really monetize it. I worked with a lot of servers in my career who just really show up. And only show up to their restaurant job. And basically their function is to move plates from the kitchen to the table.
To really serve and to enhance the experience. And,
right.
And what's interesting is what you preach in the book is what customers want anyway.
Exactly.
We all know that as a customer of a restaurant, as a patron, the food tastes better when they know you and they care, and there's a relationship that you have with the server. And if your goal as a server is to get the people to come back and ask for your section and repeat business from people that know you, then when I know a server, I'm more likely to tip more because I know them. There's accountability. And as a server, if my customers know me and I know them, it's a much better experience. And that's really what this is about in the service industry, is to create this meaningful experience, a pleasant dining experience, so people come back and order the dessert and the extra drinks and the things that you preach so well in your book.
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head, Doc. If I ask 100 servers, what do you sell? 90 of them will say something to do with food. We sell hamburgers, we sell chicken wings, we sell pizza. The fact is, and I think that the idea behind the book is, in the hospitality business, food is a tool. Drinks are a tool. What we sell are those experiences. Anyone can sell a hamburger, but it's how do I connect with you and make this an experience that makes you come back time and time again, that makes you leave more money in gratuity.
And you talk about the reality of we can all eat at home and probably more affordably as well. So it really is the experience.
Exactly. People don't go out to eat. They don't go out to bars to drink. They go out for their reasons, not ours. is that when I can see a number of different customers in my section in a restaurant at one time. I can see a couple on a first date. I can see 6 ladies out for girls' night out, college kids in to see the big game, a business traveler all by himself in for a quick lunch. All of those people have different experiential needs, and they could all be seated in my section at the same time. The message of the Renegade Server is, if you serve them all the same way, you will fail most of the time.
You actually have two different, there's almost a contradictory thing I'd like you to explain it. In the book, you talk about that there are grandparents would tip 12% and think that was fair, and your parents might tip 15% always, and other people will round up to the nearest dollar, or they'll double the tax, or whatever. Everyone has their own style. And so, to some extent, the argument is, it really doesn't matter whether I get good service or bad service, or whether somebody chats me up or doesn't chat me up. I'm going to tip the same on a $10 bill. You know, if the lunch ticket is $10, I'm going to leave $1.50 if that's my style, or I'll leave $2 if that's my style. And so, why is there a difference? Why do you work so hard to get that extra buck on a tip?
You bring up an excellent point, and that is most servers don't understand what they're being tipped for. Most servers, if you ask them what they get tipped for, will say, I get tipped for delivering good service. And you say, what does that look like? Well, it looks like smiling and being polite and saying please and thank you, and hot food hot and cold food cold. And that's what, that's what they tip me for. But we did some very serious scientific research on tipping behaviors. And guess what? Americans don't tip for service. Most Americans have a predetermined number that they apply to every check that's placed in front of them, with the expectation of perfect service. The message of the book is, you will never change me from a 20% tipper to a 23% tipper. That's why I say Grandma and Grandpa still tip 10%, because even though they still believe that 10% is good, once you have that number, you will never change. The only way to get more money from me is to change the number upon which I apply that percentage, and that is get good at selling stuff. Americans tip a predetermined amount with the already foregone expectation of perfect service. No matter what you tip, you believe that it already includes great service.
And you have a lot of tips in there that just help people really break it down simply. One of them is you believe in the power of inertia. When it comes to selling, go with the inertia that exists.
Absolutely. You know, there's a lot of stuff inertia-wise that can stop a dining experience in its tracks. One of the biggest ones that I see in restaurants across the country is I'll be in a restaurant maybe for happy hour, having a couple of beers with my friends or my colleagues. And maybe about 6 o'clock, a manager will come in and just pull down every light dimmer in that place. Have you seen this happen before?
Yes.
Of course.
It's that all of a sudden we're here having happy hour, and all of a sudden the light level in this entire restaurant just dropped 80%. And that communicates something to your diners. To the happy hour guy, it says, guess what? Happy hour's over. Dinner has begun. You better get home, buddy.
And also the server that offers me coffee before dessert, that signals the end of the meal for me. If they want to ask me about dessert, don't do it after you give me coffee, because once you give me coffee, I want the check.
Absolutely right. Here's another great beverage-related one that happens all the time. We call them exit events. Is that, a lot of different restaurants concepts train a different time to suggest a second drink. Whether it's you should sell the second drink while the first one is half full, or the first drink is a third full. Again, we did some scientific behavioral research that said that when a guest, it doesn't matter where my first drink is to dictate with whether or not I'll have a second. It matters where my companion's drink is. So that when the server says, would you like another drink? I don't look at my drink. I look at yours. So the thing is that you should suggest that drink while my companion's drink is as full as possible, because that sends a timing message to me that I can have time to finish another drink. Is this how everyone does it?
It should be. We're talking with Tim Kirkland. His book is called The Renegade Server, Uncommon Strategies for Making More Money in 21st Century Food Service. You can get it on his website, and more information about Tim Kirkland at renegadehospitality.com. That's renegadehospitality.com.
Tim, I want you to tell, this is a great story in the book, Chocolate Danger.
When I was a young server and student, I worked in a restaurant that had a dessert called Chocolate Danger. It was an unbelievable looking piece of chocolate cake. It was maybe 10 or 11 inches high and 7 layers, and just an amazing looking piece of cake. And I noticed that if I could serve one, people saw it, then I all of a sudden would get requests for more. So I learned that displaying merchandise is the best way to sell merchandise. If you want to create desire, desire is created visually.
When we're mostly visual creatures.
Correct. And so everywhere I went in that restaurant, if I was lucky enough to sell a Chocolate Danger, I would walk through that room with Chocolate Danger at my hip. I never had to say a word about it, but I walked by every table, filling ice waters, replenishing drinks. But Chocolate Danger was always on my hip, and I would deliver it at that last table. And as I walked back through my section, it was bing, 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 bing. What is it? What is it? And I probably sold, this is a long time ago, and I probably sold 10 Chocolate Dangers a night at $10 a pop. My 20% commission on that was $20 a night times 5 nights a week is $100. That's $400 a month for a hungry college student. Chocolate Danger paid for my car.
That's $5,000 a year.
Exactly right.
Just nuts and bolts of desserts that most people would not have had otherwise, but just because they saw it, that's what got them to do it.
And
so
here's the secret too, Doc, is that even if I wasn't lucky enough to sell a Chocolate Danger and create that desire, if somebody else had one in the window that had to go to one of their tables, well, I delivered that one too.
So Tim, is it fate, luck, or coincidence that made your book a bestseller?
I would like to believe that it's brilliant content. That being said, I think I was lucky that the content in the book came out at a time when a lot of large restaurant brands have been fighting against this idea that they're food factories. And a lot of large restaurant brands have been looking for a way to connect on a more personal and genuine level with their guests. And that's what the Renegade Server encourages. So,
and I love that, because that's the message I want all business owners to understand is today's marketing is about being authentic and being real.
So right. It used to be the bigger the better for marketing. And now it's the smaller the better. It's about connecting individually with your guests, not blasting them, with a whitewash.
When I found your book, what was so compelling for me, and I bought a bunch of copies and gave them to people. Yeah, well, thank you. Was that it seemed to be the perfect solution for people that had no ability to start their own business, but were entrepreneurial and wanted to have their own business. And your explanation, and you do a brilliant job of it, of how your station in a restaurant is your business, was so compelling. And I can tell you that through your work indirectly, because I gave the books, it changed certain people's lives, that even people that were already serving tables had a different perspective on their job, took greater pride, were far more ambitious, and you gave them tools to be able to supplement their income, and it enhanced their lives. So your book changes lives.
Thank you.
Especially, and why it's so appropriate to be on this radio show, because it really is geared to business people and entrepreneurs, and it's a great way to actually have your own business without all of the typical entry barriers.
And Kramer, how many of these books have you given away? I know I received a copy from you. And I know you've given them to some of your favorite servers at your favorite restaurants because you really want them to help improve your experience at the restaurant.
That's true.
How many copies have you given as gifts?
I probably 20 to 25. And what would happen is I would see somebody doing something right in a restaurant, practicing politics, making a personal experience, and I would approach typically somebody that I knew, and I'd say, I have this book. If I give it to you, will you read it? And the answer is always yes. And it's a very easy read, especially for somebody in the industry. But it can be somebody in the industry as a customer also. We all go out to restaurants, and it's fascinating for people to read from the server's perspective about the research and the findings that are there. And you can look at this and say, well, I see myself in that. This is the way I tip. That's right. Or this is a real deal killer for me, or that might be what would motivate me to get a dessert. So very impressive.
Thank you. Doesn't it give you chills to hear that? Really,
it's so gratifying. It really is. It's honestly, it's been the blessing of my life is hearing stories like that, getting emails from single moms who are bartenders or kids who are working their way through school and getting those communications saying that it has changed something for them.
And it's just not just about the food service industry. It's about customer service. It's about taking entrepreneurial ownership in your job.
Correct. There are certain truths that are in this book. They're written within the context of a restaurant environment, but there are truths about customer service that will never change. There are certain, great customer service is not complicated. It is simple. That doesn't mean it's easy, but it's simple. And those rules never change. Great leadership, great service are constant.
Tim Kirkland, thanks for being with us. Doc Kramer, thank you for calling in. I know you're a fan of his book, The Renegade Server, Uncommon Strategies for Making More Money in 21st Century Food Service. You can go to renegadehospitality.com or thebusinessexperienceshow.com for more information. Thanks for being with us, Tim.
It's been my absolute pleasure.
For more information, you can go to thebusinessexperienceshow.com. I'm Lisa Caprelli, Brian Gapps, Doc Kramer, and Tim Kirkland. Thanks. You're listening to Angels Radio AM 830 KLAA. We are getting down to business every Sunday with shows like Road to Wealth, Missed Fortune Radio, Hardline with Will Bruzo, and The Business Experience Show, right here every Sunday on Angels Radio AM 830 KLAA.
Need investment strategies for family or business? Talk to Scott Shire at Quintessential Financial or visit betterfinancialfuture.us. Learn some tricks of the wealthy and apply them to your assets. Learn how to better secure your savings with IRAs. Find out about tax shelters and leveraging your insurance policies. Talk about college planning now. Heard regularly on Business Radio, our financial tips can help you find a new BFF. Better Financial Future. Visit betterfinancialfuture.us. That's betterfinancialfuture.us.
Philosophy number 40, be memorable.
Advertising is everywhere, and with so many messages, how do you make your brand memorable? Evoke an emotional response to connect with your audience. Make your prospects feel something, whether they laugh or cry or simply smile. An emotional twist is the difference between your brand being top of mind or just one in the crowd.
Be memorable. From Orange Label Art and Advertising. Generating thriving brand leaders. OrangeLabelAdvertising.com.